This is our top 10 movies of 2023.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Written by Podcast, the #1 podcast in the world.
Right behind all the other ones.
Right behind all the other ones.
But we are the primary location if you want to know the best movies of the past year to watch. Don't go to the Oscars. Don't go to the Emmys.
Yeah.
BAFTAs. You want to come right here. Written by Podcast.
Yeah, bro. Oscars don't know dog. You want to know? You want to know who really knows movies? Two white guys with a podcast.
Hey, all I'm saying, I would have nominated Greta Gerwig. So.
For Best Director? Dude, I've been seeing all of the backlash about it.
Yeah.
And then there's my favorite was when they were like, wow, Margot Robbie didn't get nominated for Best Actress. I guess women can't have like anything.
Yeah.
And they're like, guys, 4 other women were nominated over her.
Yeah,
It wasn't
is
like
a category of all women. So it's
yeah. Now, Greta Gerwig, that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story. But it also, people are acting like Margot Robbie isn't nominated. She's a producer on Barbie. So she is like, if Barbie wins Best Picture, she does get the trophy.
And another thing I think people forget is just because Barbie's really good doesn't make it an Oscar movie. You know what I mean? It is a blockbuster. It's like a Marvel movie. I mean, it's not like a Marvel movie, but you know what I mean? It's like Indiana Jones.
Yeah. I think it was a missed opportunity for the Oscars because it's a really popular movie that does have artistic merit. Like aside from like other popular movies.
Right.
Like Black Adam doesn't deserve the
Exactly.
Oscars, but like Barbie you can make the case for.
And it's nominated for Best Picture.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So it's just like, now I do think it's a shame Greta wasn't nominated.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know if there should be a backlash. Hillary Clinton is tweeting about it. Hasn't said anything about the war going on in the Middle East.
That
made
is
sure
true.
she had to make a statement about the Barbie.
That is true.
Slander.
They can't say shit about the Middle East, but they will.
She's like, okay.
They will wax poetic about movies for.
She's been waiting for some ever since Pokemon Go to the polls.
Yeah.
She's been waiting for her opportunity.
Yeah. So I will say, going into my top 10 movies, I didn't realize until I looked back how many good movies came out. Like
I saw none of them.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So I feel like I looked back on the year like, oh, it was a whatever year for movies. And I feel like I must have just not been in a good place this year or last year. Because looking back this year, it's like, no, a lot of good stuff. And I had a really hard time narrowing down a list. And what I did is I left some things off because there are some things that I left off my list and I'm pretty sure will be on yours. And so we'll still get to talk about them.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying that I don't want anyone to be mad that Barbie isn't in my top 10. I like the movie, but
yeah, no, I agree.
I figured it might be in yours and we'd still discuss it.
Maybe. It might be. We'll see.
We watched it together.
Yes, we did. And I loved it.
Yeah.
And you liked it. Yeah. That doesn't mean that was my favorite.
Are we also snubbing Barbie?
I think we might. Because here's the thing. This is our top 10 favorite movies of 2023. It's not what we think are the best movies of 2023. I do want to say this about my list. I realized I haven't watched some of the movies that I thought I did.
Okay.
Because there are some pretty big movies this year that I think I just assumed I saw.
Really?
Like Killers of the Flower Moon. I forgot I haven't seen that movie. So I went to go put it on my list and then realized I haven't seen this movie. Poor Things, Killers of the Flower Moon, Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, and then probably another big one that you'll have on your list.
Okay.
Haven't seen them. Forgot I hadn't seen them. Almost put them on my list. So I had to put Ninja Turtles.
My number 10 is a little Netflix movie called May December. This also like got snubbed from the Oscars, except for I think it got a screenplay nomination, which makes sense because also going along with Barbie, what I've noticed about the Oscars is a lot of films that are really weird and have a kind of lighter comedic tone. They don't get a lot of major awards, but they do get screenplay awards. Yeah. So, that kind of falls in line. But May December is a kind of dark comedy. Also, like it's very dramatic, but then out of nowhere, it'll just punch you with a really comedic moment. Yeah. It is such a fascinating tone to me. and I don't even want to give away what the movie's about, because like if you go into it blind, the moment you discover it is so weird. But it is something that almost shouldn't work, and that's part of what
makes it so cool,
makes it so funny, is because it flirts with getting really uncomfortable and then like ropes you back in at the moment where you think it's about to go too far. Like it's a really fun watch. Natalie Portman also great in it.
I need to watch that movie.
Yeah,
I thought I did. Because I've been like enjoying all of the discourse about like you know the actor from the Riverdale series.
Right. Also snubbed from the Oscars. It looked like he had some buzz,
and I was like, yeah, he deserved it. Yeah. And I was like, oh wait, I haven't seen that movie. He could suck. I don't know. I haven't seen it.
You just vicariously through tweets. I mean, I will say there are some movies like everybody says that Zone of Interest is great. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of nominations. It hasn't been distributed wide yet.
So no one's seen it.
Yeah, no one has seen it. Only in like the big cities where award stuff happens have people seen this movie.
Okay. My number 10, a little film you guys might have heard of, directed by Robert Farrell, Trouble Date. Trouble Date came out this year. It's a short film, and that counts. Yeah, short films count because they're nominated for Oscars.
Okay.
Trouble Date. One of my favorite movies from this year.
What was your favorite part about that?
Me.
Okay.
It's my 10th favorite movie of the year.
I do like the movie, and I think anybody that's watching that hasn't seen it should
watch
click
it.
The link in the description to the film. My number 9 is a movie called Monster. Now, this is a Japanese movie. This was where I was like, I could put Barbie here, but not a lot of people are talking about Monster, and I feel like it's a really great movie. But this director, I don't know exactly how to pronounce his name, so I won't. But he's been around for a while doing Japanese and Korean movies, but he has had a recent stretch of 3 movies that are just incredible,
just bangers.
I wouldn't directly compare it to Parasite, but if you're a fan of the way that the narrative of Parasite evolves and switches, like this is a really unique movie to watch, and it kind of like opens you up to how you could do screenwriting in different ways than what's normal.
Dude, I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's super sick. Okay, my number 9, and this is where we're gonna realize right away we're different people.
Okay,
my number 9, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Nice.
Super fun. I'm a huge fan of the Ninja Turtles. I've seen pretty much all of the adaptations, and I think that they did a really good job of doing something different without straying too far off. Yeah. And it was just, it was fun, man. I didn't see Spider-Verse, so I probably would have put Spider-Verse here. But Ninja Turtles is one of those movies. I really enjoyed it. I don't think about it every day. So it's not like, my favorite movie in the world. Yeah. But I was like, oh, dude, what a fun movie. I love Ninja Turtles. It was good. Yeah. Number 9.
No, I liked it a lot. It's directed by one of the co-directors of Mitchell's versus the Machines. Mm-hmm. Like the other guy that directed that, it was like his life story. So most of the attention went to him. But this guy like co-directed that movie. And this is his first like solo thing.
So good, man. And you can definitely tell, like, Seth Rogen produced it.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, when the movie was first announced and Seth Rogen was like, look, if there's one thing we know how to do, it's how to write teenagers.
Yeah.
And I think he was exactly right.
It felt very much like current day teenagers as opposed to writers in their 40s.
Bacon, egg, and cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese. So funny.
Also, I feel like it's probably the first instance of the word Riz being used in a movie.
Yeah. Well, because that's the thing. They just let those teenagers in the booth and just let them go.
But they must have done some stuff really recently, because I feel like at the time they started that movie, I don't think Riz was even...
I think I read a thing that said that they recorded the movie as written. Yeah. And then they were recording a scene where they just kind of let the kids improv it. Yeah. And they were like, and they were like talking over each other and everything. They were like, and so they redid everything. Yeah. I think.
Which you could tell just how naturalistic that dialogue feels. Dude, you want to know something crazy?
Yeah.
There's a podcast. I think it's called Script Apart. It's
That's a
where
good
they
name.
they take writers and they have them talk about the first draft of their movies and how it differentiates
From what's on screen.
Yeah.
That's sick.
They had the guy that wrote this movie on.
Oh, snap.
Apparently, the entire movie was pitched as something completely different. And they spent a really long time working on this movie. It was supposed to be like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles go to high school. And it's like a high school movie.
I can
And
see that.
it wasn't working. And in the span of like 3 days or something, they completely from scratch wrote a new draft that is
Dang.
pretty much what the movie is now.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's another thing about the first draft is the villain was going to be kind of based on Vince Vaughn.
That makes sense.
And then they had like a come to
see
Jesus moment where they were like, hey, are kids even into Vince Vaughn? All right, my number 8 is a movie you haven't seen, but it's Killers of the Flower Moon.
I thought I saw it.
Yeah. I do kind of get how you could read so much on Twitter about
Yeah.
movies. You kind of absorb opinions. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that was a good movie. And then you realize, oh, wait, I
I
never.
never saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon. Scorsese. He said something to the effect of he's just now realized what cinema can do, and it sucks because now he's
Almost
old.
dead.
It only has so much time left.
That was
But,
rude of me to say.
Yeah, but you could tell with this, like it's a movie that only someone with that much experience could
pull off.
make.
Yeah.
It takes a really interesting perspective. Like there's something to it's a movie written and directed by white people about Native Americans. And so there are a million ways that could go wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the approach they took was the right one. I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
mean,
like spoil anything in it.
I mean,
but-
even him being in the movie and pretty much calling himself out.
Yeah, that's the other thing is the last scene really puts things into perspective, which I thought was really interesting, and it almost sums up his whole career in a way.
Yeah.
It was really cool to watch, and also it is a super long movie. It is like the shortest 3-hour movie I feel
is.
like I've ever seen because every moment is really engaging and keeps you asking questions. I've seen a lot of other long movies this year that like I thought were good, but at a certain point in time, I was like, okay, when is this going to pick up? Okay, maybe we should be wrapping things up. But with this movie, when I like just happened to look at my phone for the first time and it
And
was
you were like-
3 hours in, I was like, I'm not even ready for this to end yet.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta watch this movie.
Uh-huh.
You want to know the longest movie ever? I don't even know the runtime.
Okay.
House of Gucci. That movie is 8 hours long.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your number 8?
My number 8. Probably a bit of a controversial pick.
Okay.
Saltburn.
Okay.
Now, immediately, I want to say all of the criticisms on this movie, all the critiques are 100% correct.
Okay.
However, I had a really fun time watching it, and I do think that the performances are really beautiful. I think there's some of my favorite performances ever.
Yeah.
So that's why it's my number 8.
Okay. We've talked about Saltburn a lot, but I
lot,
also
yeah.
I kind of have the same opinion as you. I get all the criticism and it has kind of affected how I look back on the movie, but I did have a great time watching it. I love the performance. I also just love the whole atmosphere. Like I'm blanking on her name, but
The director?
yeah, but for all her faults, she is an incredible visual director.
Oh, yeah.
And you mix in like kind of the symbolism of is it Midsummer's Night Dream, the Shakespeare play they were riffing off of, or
I actually
don't-
hadn't heard that. Is that what they're doing? Is this based on Midsummer's Night Dream?
it's not based on it, but it has some imagery, like when they're at the party and one of them has a certain like all of them have costumes that are kind of
Oh,
lifted from Shakespeare. I don't know. Because like, I'm not that big of a Shakespeare head, so I wouldn't
yeah.
know all the symbolism, but I know it looked cool.
It did, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
It looked awesome,
Yeah.
and there's like a cozy feel to that whole movie.
Yeah.
I really loved it.
Yeah.
But I do agree with the critiques of that movie. So like, it's a weird like,
Yeah.
it's like everybody that's hating on it, I do think is right.
Yeah.
But also, I like it.
Yeah. We've also talked about this. Ao Edibari, her letterbox
Adibri.
review of this
So
was
good. So
so
good.
funny, and the haters made her delete it, which is
and now
is
she
wrong.
doesn't do fun letterbox reviews.
She was my
anymore.
favorite letterbox follow, and Saltburn
too.
people ruined it. Like, I like Saltburn, but
Yeah, her review was so he could do all that. He could do all that with the bathtub, but he won't eat runny eggs, which is just so
this
good.
is so funny.
So good.
Okay, my number 7 is The Holdovers.
Yeah, another one that I thought I'd seen.
To be fair, we were trying to get a group together to see it, and then everyone in the group saw
Watched
it.
it,
Without...
and then I showed up, and everyone had seen it.
I was like, because I was the first one to see it, so it's not like I betrayed you.
No,
but I
no,
was
no.
like, hey, I will watch it again with all of you.
And they were all
then
like,
everyone
yeah.
else in the group watched it.
Yeah, like I remember we got a text in the group chat not a day after we made the plans. It was like, hey, I went ahead and watched this movie because I had promised my girlfriend that we would watch together. I'm still excited to watch it with you guys, but it was really good. I was like, okay, well, you know, 2 and 2.
Yeah.
And then like the next week, the third person was like, yeah, dude, great movie. I'm like,
Not only a great movie, but also like no one was really expecting it to be that great. It has the best of what Alexander Payne does. With just a little something extra. It's just a movie with a lot of heart in it. It's really funny and lighthearted and cozy, but then it gets really dramatic and serious. Then it's heartwarming at the end. It makes you laugh. It makes you cry. It's also technically a Christmas movie, so it has that going for it. It's just a big ball of feelings, and yeah, it's a great watch. Paul Giamatti also probably gives the best performance of his career, and he himself is a very underrated actor. He's had a long, incredible career, so the fact that he's still doing his best work now is crazy.
my number 7, Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves.
I will say this is one of those movies that I wish could have cracked the top 10.
Yeah.
It was like that is an all around
was just-
solid movie.
I mean, it's not anything groundbreaking. It was a fun action adventure movie. It was just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It looked cool. The performances were really funny and great. Bradley Cooper shows up. I just really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, me too. Wait, we watched it together, didn't we? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say it was probably the best blockbuster of
that's what I was about to say.
the past year. Like it succeeds in everything a blockbuster needs to do, but I don't know, just in terms of both the action and the humor and the creativity, it's just a league above every other big studio movie.
And I think that's what made it stand out for me this year. Is I think it was the first movie like that, like in the genre I had seen since kind of Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made me remember, like, oh,
At number 6, I have a movie called The Starling Girl, which I feel like on our like just talking episode a few weeks ago in December, I think I touched on this a little. This was a little indie movie that came out in January of last year.
yes, I remember now.
It
I
was
Googled
it was a first feature, and so it wasn't a super big movie. It flew under a lot of radars, but one of the McPoyles from It's Always Sunny has a supporting role. It's a very dramatic movie. It's not a comedy. So he has a supporting role. He kills it. Also, I think Lord Huron or something, some like popular singer did the soundtrack to it. So that's why people would know it. But it's about a girl growing up in a fundamentalist Christian community, which I have a little experience in. I didn't 100% grow up in that environment, but I was always kind of adjacent to it. And so it was really cool seeing someone tell that story. And it's a really dramatic movie with some great performances. The lead in it was the youngest girl in the Little Women movie, Greta Gerwig's movie.
Okay, yeah.
And it was really cool seeing her, who only had a little bit to do in that movie, like really carry a movie, and she carried it really well. And it's a movie I can't get anyone else to watch because it is kind of a tough watch. It's about it's essentially about this teenage girl whose youth pastor kind of preys on her a little, but yeah, I don't know.
So is The Devil All the Time.
That's true.
And that movie goes hard in the paint.
Yeah. I mean, if you know the subject matter and you're still comfortable watching it, though, I would recommend watching it. And again, as someone that was kind of adjacent to communities like that, and I've heard stories like that,
it really hit.
it hit, and it's something that was very accurate, and they definitely took a lot of care in making that movie. And I'm really looking forward to whatever that director does next. Hopefully she gets something.
She could do Eternals too.
see, that is kind of like if this movie blew up the way that like the writer did, she would be in the conversation for like Eternals too. And personally, like selfishly, I don't want that to happen. I want to see her do another
more drama,
but
yeah, no. I think we've reached the end of that. All right, my number 6, I believe. Yes, and I'm not making excuses for this one. I would have ranked this one higher if this hadn't been such a baller year.
Okay.
The Hunger Games: Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This movie went so hard, dude. It's so fun. It's so cool. It's so visually pleasing. I love Hunger Games as it is. Like when I was in middle school, I read the books and everything as the movies were coming out. So I'm a big fan. Dude, it's just a blast of a movie. I forgot that movies could just be so like cool.
Yeah.
You got that dude with the buzz cut. He looks sick. You got old Rachel from the West Side Story doing like a southern accent and singing, and it's just like, yeah, dude, I love singing. And, and then you know, it's kind of, and talk about kind of the deeper themes of the movie, and I agree with all of them, and you know, kind of the making spectacles of terrible events and terrorism, and Jason Schwartzman is hysterical in that movie.
Dude, that guy has had a year. Man.
I mean, everything about that. I left that theater being like, you know what? If I never see another movie again, I think I'm okay. Because that was just so much fun. There's, of course, a lot of heart. But I'm not trying to get bogged down with emotions right now. I just had a blast from start to finish. Great movie.
My number 5 is Poor Things.
Good. Yes.
Now, I love this movie a lot. This is Yorgos Lanthimos.
We're having a hard time pronouncing.
I was about to say there's so many people in this list whose names I haven't been able to pronounce.
We couldn't even get Ayo Adibri's name right earlier.
Adibri. God.
I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it.
You know what I legitimately think it is?
Yeah.
Is usually I've been listening to these people on podcasts the entire year, but during the strike, these people weren't on podcasts, and I weren't hearing people say their name.
I've just been seeing tweets.
Yeah, exactly. But Yorgos is one of my favorite directors, just in his unique visual style and tone. And Poor Things is a movie that is very funny, but is also can get very uncomfortable at the same time, which I think a lot of people aren't gonna like, but I personally liked.
Yeah.
Like Poor Things, it got a bunch of Oscar nominations. It's one of those movies that now that it's nominated for Oscars, a bunch of parents are going to watch it, and then those people are going to be like, what the hell is this? Hollywood is going down the toilet. Why is this on film? And it's like it's kind of meant for a specific generation group of people, but
it's a Frankenstein movie.
That's the fun thing about it. It is very fantastical and fairy tale-esque, and it's the most fantastical a Yorgos movie has ever been. He's always had hints of that, but at least the imagery of his movies have always been kind of sterile and clean, or he's done period pieces before. This is the first like full-on fantasy he's done.
And he just goes balls to the wall.
Yeah.
Literally, I've heard.
Yeah. See, that's why a lot of people won't like it. Like, if you're one of these people that doesn't like sex in movies, this is a movie to skip.
Okay, my number 5. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. Scream 6.
Yes.
I love the Scream franchise.
I knew this would be here somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did we watch that together?
No, we didn't.
Okay. The first one is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yep.
And I just loved this one. And you've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. In this one, so I like it a lot more than I liked the last one, the fifth one.
Yeah.
Because I realized in this one, so I mean, this isn't a spoiler. I'm not going to say who Ghostface is, but pretty much in every Scream movie, a lot of people get stabbed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was watching this movie and some of the main cast members got stabbed that I realized how much I cared about them. And I was like, oh, I'm very invested in this new group of leads for the new Scream movies. And so, just because you get stabbed doesn't mean you die. This is no spoilers, but pretty much everyone got stabbed. And it just
That's true.
I realized like, I really care about these, and I can't wait to see more from this group. And then, they all got fired. So,
yeah,
oh well.
Man, they really had something going with these new Scream movies.
They did.
They were. I mean, there are a few things that I wish were done differently, but overall, they were really taking the reins of the story really well.
I think I ranked it. So I did like a ranking on my Letterboxd of like just the Scream movies, and I ranked Scream 6 my third favorite in the franchise.
Yeah.
Which is this is up there, man.
I mean, I could see it though. Yeah. My number 4 is Godzilla -1.
Another one that I
Yeah.
was like, I wish I had watched that movie before we made this list.
Yeah, man. So we were talking about how the Dungeons and Dragons movie achieves being a blockbuster perfectly. I feel like it is second only to this movie. I feel like this is like 100% the best blockbuster that came out this past year. The best action movie, the best big budget movie, and it's really telling that it came from outside of the United States.
Yeah.
It feels like the US studio system has kind of lost their way a little in what actually makes a giant movie fun. And meanwhile, across the sea, where they don't have the same expectations, they're kind of, it feels a lot like a classic Spielberg movie.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are some parts that feel a lot like Jaws. There are some parts that maybe feel a little like Jurassic Park, but it never feels like these are people that only watch Spielberg and are trying to copy it. Like it follows the same blueprint as what a Spielberg blockbuster was in the 70s.
Which was the first blockbusters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's relevant to now. It plays around with the ethos of Godzilla really well. I know there are a ton of Godzilla movies made in Japan, and supposedly they're all really good. I think this one kind of fits in the overall Japanese Godzilla franchise. Like there's one scene in there that makes me think it like fits into that, but I haven't seen any of the others, but you don't have to.
Okay.
The monster is just handled so well. It's very terrifying. And then it's a movie that has a lot of heart. Like you care about all the characters, and thematically it has something really strong at the center of it. That it's a theme that keeps you interested in the movie, but also all of the action kind of results from the theme. And also like the last scene like almost made me cry, and I was like, am I about to cry at a Godzilla movie? This is crazy.
It got me choked
But
up.
yeah, it's kind of everything you would want out of a movie, and it's just a testament to how good it is and how much catching up US cinema has to do that this movie was so successful in the US without even initially being pushed in the US that
It's nominated
much.
for Best VFX at the Oscars.
I know, yeah, and it should have got more. Did you see the video where the VFX team was? Yeah, they were watching the announcement live, and they were all cheering, and they had a bunch of little Godzilla toys that were lined up and watching the announcement too.
It's wholesome.
Yeah,
It's just wholesome.
yeah. It I mean, honestly though, if it was a US movie, it would have gotten more nominations.
I believe it.
It probably would have been like on par with what Barbie is.
Was it not nominated for Best International Feature?
That's the thing. It wasn't
How
because
strange.
they because how the international feature works is the film commission for every country could only pick one movie.
Oh,
And so they usually, they pick like their best drama or their best like Oscar baity type movie. Like there have been like even I talked about Broker, the movie the monster director did, and he had my favorite foreign language movie, and it wasn't even nominated for the Oscar because the Korean Film Commission picked another movie.
Dang. My number 4, and one that I think is going to shock some people. Well, not you. I think you'll see this one coming.
Okay.
A Haunting in Venice.
Okay.
The latest Hercule Poirot mystery.
Yeah.
We saw this one together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not shocking to me at all.
No,
But
no. I love mysteries. It's my favorite genre. I love Agatha Christie. I love the Kenneth Branagh. How do you pronounce his last name?
I think that's it. But
I love his Hercule Poirot movies. You know, some hit, some miss, but I just love that there's a the whodunit genre is alive and well thanks to like him and Rian Johnson with the Knives Out movies. And this one, I mean, it was just so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like almost a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And there's one particular moment that has just stuck with me ever since we saw it, and that's the first kill, or one of the kills where, I'm not going to spoil it, but someone falls on a sharp object, and like you see the silhouette, and like it's just a visceral moment that's really stuck with me. And I just think it's a really Tina Fey, great performance.
That's right. Yeah.
It doesn't utilize Venice as much as it could.
Yeah.
But the shots where you do see the river, or they riverways or like the waterways, it's just like such a cool environment for a murder mystery.
That was almost like one of my favorite things about it was it's a very contained movie. Like they're all trapped in one place, and it's cool that even a movie with that big of a budget decided to take the risk of being a kind of contained. I mean, it felt like watching a low budget contained horror movie, like when people make horror movies with a very low budget, and so they make it all take place in one location, but it's got a bigger budget with like more things to work with, so it's a cooler location and really cool cinematography, giant cast of characters. It was a lot of fun.
I'm surprised it didn't make your list.
We'll see. I knew it would.
You knew it would be on mine.
My number 3 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
I was waiting.
Yeah. And it's so strange to me that superhero movies have become more popular and have almost across the board become more formulaic, and everyone's kind of gotten a little more tired of them. But then there's this one group of people that is still making superhero movies, and they're the complete opposite of that. Like where every other superhero movie feels more focus grouped and less original and has less heart, like these somehow like double down and feel more human than ever before. Like it's this sprawling action movie across multiple dimensions, but at the heart of it, it's about like parents' relationships with their kids, and that like manifests itself in different forms. And it's one of the coolest things about movies is that you could tell stories about like little intimate personal relationships that are, very similar to relationships we have with people. Like we all have parents with unique relationships, but like you could put that and tell that it like on the canvas of a giant action movie.
Yeah.
And the animation, of course, just continues to push the genre forward. Watching it in a theater was crazy. And I'm into visual art. Like I'm not an expert on it, but I like to research painters and stuff, and you could tell certain things they're taking inspiration from that I thought I would never see in an animated movie, much less like a Spider-Man movie. And then even when the main villain like kind of gets all his power, there's just this jaw-dropping moment, and some of his art style, you could like, I've seen photos of people will ask people with like severe mental illnesses, people that are like psychopaths or serial killers, to like draw paintings of what they feel like, and they're
And
like
they just-
really freaky paintings,
Yeah.
and you like see a little of that in like the villain's art style.
Wow. Yeah.
And then like the art style also changes not only depending on who the characters are, but also like the emotion of the scene.
Wow.
So like this I think this is unique to this movie. They didn't do it in the first Spider-Verse, but they play with like watercolor imagery
Wow.
to where during a really emotional, intense scene, like the backdrop panes literally just kind of like melt away.
Oh wow.
And like there's like this kind of liquidy, like the painting melts away, and then there's just like this bright pink or blue or orange, just whatever the characters feel. I know stuff like it has been done in the past, but I never seen it like so intense in a movie.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's also just like a Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
kids
yeah.
can appreciate it too, it's such
Important.
a crazy thing to juggle. But yeah, those
Wow.
movies are incredible.
Which leads me to my number 3,
Okay.
Bottoms.
Okay.
Yeah, a comedy
yeah.
was gonna have to make my top 3.
Yep.
I think it was probably the most impressive comedy of the year. No Hard Feelings was also great,
Uh-huh.
but Bottoms, I mean, Ayo and Rachel Sano, I mean, they're just their comedy writing is exactly what is like this moment. Like, you know, like what
Yeah.
Superbad is to the early 2000s. That is what Bottoms is to this like Twitter comedian
Yeah.
era. Like
yeah.
you're not going to. There's no. I'm a huge stand-up comedian fan, and I am a comedian. There's not a single stand-up special that will make you laugh as hard as Twitter during a really important, devastating event.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's funny because those two got famous because of Twitter.
Yeah. As I was like, I followed Rachel for years
Yeah.
as a Twitter personality before I knew she ever did anything acting wise.
And dude, that movie. I mean, it's very similar to Superbad in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But it's also very different, obviously. But it's very similar in the way of like, it's set in a high school. It's a high school comedy. It's about two kind of like losers trying to
Yeah.
get laid.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's just the most brilliant comedy writing. It's so good.
Yeah.
Marshawn Lynch,
Yeah. Yeah.
hilarious.
Dude. Yeah. It's really good on them for like seeing Marshawn Lynch as a great casting choice. Because
Yeah.
I remember seeing him in like football commercials and thinking this guy could actually act.
Yeah.
Like there are a lot of football players they put in commercials that can't do it.
No. Peyton Manning.
Have you ever seen like the voice acting in NBA 2K or stuff like that?
No. But I
Look
think I know
this
what you
up
mean.
on TikTok. It's a fun time. But
I will. I'll make a note.
a lot of athletes they try to put on TV and they can't even string words together. And this guy is legit great. Not only acting but improv too.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's on that Will Arnett
Yeah.
improv show on
Yeah.
Netflix, and he knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. There's in particular in Bottoms one scene that I can't stop thinking about is the one that Ayo improved.
Uh-huh.
And it's when they're walking to the car and she's talking about how her life is going to end up.
Yeah.
And she improvs the whole thing. And it's the most hilarious, bizarre thing you've ever heard.
Yeah.
You can see Rachel trying not to break. And it's just brilliant.
Yeah.
It's brilliant from start to finish.
My number 2 is a little movie you might not have heard of. It's called Oppenheimer.
Ooh, for
Yeah.
number 2. I was
Yeah.
expecting number 1.
Not quite, but yeah, Oppenheimer. It feels like the most film bro-y film to pick because it's like a Christopher Nolan movie
Yeah.
or whatever. But
It's
it,
that good.
Yeah, to me, it just kind of feels like the most important movie that came out. I mean, that and Barbie, which is funny they both came out on the same day.
Right.
But not important in like how a lot of Oscar baiting movies are like, this is about an issue that's important. But
Right.
it really like I've never left a theater with so much kind of impending doom
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
Because it's a whole movie about how we're the only species in the history of the planet that is created the means of our own destruction. Like we have invented technology where we could wipe out all life on Earth, and it's just like out there. And it asks the question, how did that come about? Like I know some people don't like the approach that kind of centers Oppenheimer. I don't quite agree with people's interpretations who feel like that's a bad thing, because to me it is kind of a movie about like how damaging pride can be, and how if someone's both really arrogant and really intelligent, everyone just kind of bends over backwards for them and feeds into that, and it becomes this toxic cycle.
And then it ends with
that
the
ends
end
with
of the world.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like that movie approaches it really well. And then even by the time Oppenheimer kind of realizes the folly of his ways, it's too late. Like he gave into it. And then the whole push and pull of him and Robert Downey Jr.'s character is really cool. It's really interesting how the film transforms into something else kind of 2/3 of the way through, in a way that's like jarring but doesn't feel totally out of place. Really interesting screenplay.
Yeah.
Of course, every white actor on the planet is in this. They all
very true.
Do a good job. I really appreciate how the movie was approached and what it's saying. And yeah, also it and Barbie coming out on the same day. Like I feel like those movies kind of have a lot of similarities that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but they both are kind of about how prideful men can
destroy
the world. One kind of ends more optimistically, and this one is kind of a little more realist of kind of, well, no, we've kind of fucked up, and now this is where we're at. Maybe we could change it and prevent world destruction. Maybe, yeah.
Doesn't look likely.
Yeah,
but, dude. What I really love about the movie, and I don't think a lot of people will agree, is it's a movie about how your mistakes make you feel. And I think a lot of people are like, who cares how he feels? He's the one that did it. He's a monster. But it's like, no, I mean, people make mistakes. I mean, that's a hefty one. But everyone makes mistakes. Like even the I guess I say smaller, because the whole movie's about his mistakes. Yeah. His relationship with his wife. Yeah. And the mistakes he makes in that, and how that makes him feel. Yeah. His mistakes with coworkers, his mistakes with I mean, bombing a country, and how it makes him feel. Yeah. And a lot of people don't like that, like how you were saying. Yeah. But I think I mean, that scene when everyone's cheering. Yeah. And the way that Nolan does that scene is like, oh my God. Yeah. It's weird because like I get where some people would come from of not wanting to like center a person like that. But again, like it says something to the effect of like, even for people that are chasing fame and glory, like it's not going to end up well for them. Yeah. But also like every supporting character in that movie, like almost the entirety of it, except for Robert Downey Jr., is just bending over backwards for this dude and feeding into his ego. And yeah, that was really interesting. Like I feel like this was the best way to tell the story. Yeah. And yeah, hopefully people like actually take away the right things from it, and we don't blow ourselves up. You can hope. Yeah. All right. My number 2, The Iron Claw. Okay. See, this was one of those movies that I liked a lot, but I knew you would talk about. So yeah, no, it was my number 2 movie, and it ranks so high because it hits hard for me. Yeah. I'm a professional wrestler. Yeah. Semi-retired professional wrestler. Yeah. I already knew the history of the Von Erichs, and it's just a beautiful movie. It was really cool to see all of the old, the Sportatorium, how professional wrestling was back then, and kind of its glory days. Yeah. So like that as like just like a historical point of view was really cool, because it's like, oh wow, I'm getting. There's not a lot of pro wrestling media out there that's not just pro wrestling. Yeah. And so to see it is like really cool. And to see other people learn about pro wrestling other than just what they see at like WWE, John Cena, RKO from Randy Orton, it was really cool, you know, to watch the movie with you and, you know, PD and Shaman, and just like something that I've been very passionate about and I know everything there is to know about. To see other people learn about that's really cool. But then also it's just like, what a emotional, like the brother story, a story about brothers. And it's just like, it feels small and big at the same time. It feels like a small movie, but it felt very big.
It's a really good description of it. Yeah. My number one movie of the year.
Am I guessing? Well, I don't know what this means.
Talk to me.
Oh, I was like, again, another movie I didn't see. I was like, am I guessing?
I thought you were just going to go like, and I'd be like, talk to me. But then it took a little bit.
I was like, hello.
Hello.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Okay, man.
I should have seen this coming. I'd missed this. I didn't even think of it.
God, dude, I have not been able to stop thinking about Talk to Me since it came out. It's because a lot of movies on this list have been very long movies, very ambitious movies, dramatic movies or blockbuster movies, and this was just like a 90-minute straightforward horror movie, but it accomplishes that so well in a way that is just very impressive, because the central monster of the whole thing just feels very well thought out, very lived in. It does a great job of establishing the rules of what the monster is. You're never confused about what it does at any moment, but there's never like some out of place expositional dump that doesn't feel natural. The characters all feel really real. They're really funny moments at the beginning, and then it gets more dramatic, and then it ends like really dark, and there's an underlining theme throughout the whole thing that's really interesting. And just the central idea, like, I know we've talked about it a little, but researching the film, which also the film was made by two YouTubers. Yeah. They were big on YouTube, even though they never made money off YouTube, because they
just kept making stuff.
They're just two crazy people that were not interested in being monetized. That's all I'll say about that. But you could tell through their YouTube experience, their understanding of, like, they did a lot of stunt stuff. Their understanding of action and what makes a compelling action scene is evident, but it's also evident in how understanding the visual medium of film, like through action sequences, carries on into the whole narrative. And I was looking them up, and I found out that they based the film on a short film that a friend of theirs had made. And the concept of the short film is people find something that allows them to be possessed, and they like kind of get a thrill off of it. And so it's almost like they're doing drugs. It's like they get a hit of the spirit being inside them, and they try to get it out. And so there's this obvious allegory toward like the dangers of drug use and addiction and how it affects people. That's just manifested beautifully in the main character, but it never feels like a film that's about the dangers of drug use. Could very quickly feel like a true PSA, TV commercial, but this never feels like that. And the lead performance is incredible.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same as when Lupita Nyong'o was in Us. Like, if the Oscars respected horror at all, she would be getting awards. But man, great movie. And it almost makes screenwriting look too easy. The fact that they
it's so
they can do all that.
Down.
Yeah. And hearing them talk, like, they've definitely done a lot of work. Like, they've done a whole lot of world building and research and exploration of what this world is that is barely in the movie at all, but you could just feel that it's there.
Yeah.
But it's never too obsessed with the monster in the world that it loses sight of the characters, and the story is centered around the characters, and it is a hell of a directorial debut.
My number one movie
All right.
of 2023, ladies and gentlemen, Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've
Nice.
talked about it at length,
Yeah,
so we
yeah.
don't have to go about it again. I mean, that movie, walking out of that theater is like,
Yeah.
it feels like the biggest movie I've ever seen. I will say this about Oppenheimer. I think it's really funny how a big part of the movie is just Robert Downey Jr.'s character is like, oh, are they mad at me? And that's me.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I feel like that guy, what was he talking to Einstein about me?
Yeah.
Being so self-obsessed that you're like, oh, the two most brilliant minds in physics must be talking about me.
Dude, we were talking about Twitter humor when we were
Yeah.
talking about bottoms. Another funny tweet about Oppenheimer was someone pointed out that whenever you see Einstein in a movie, he doesn't feel like a real person. It kind of feels like you're watching a cartoon character. 'Cause
Yeah, he's like a fictional character.
yeah.
It's like
He's like the word for genius. You forget
Yeah.
that he was actually a real
Just a
person.
guy.
And he also looks so cartoony too.
So yeah, hey, this has been our top 10 movies of 2023. We hope you'd enjoyed it. If you didn't, I don't know.